Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my wedding for making my wife cry? I'm a 34-year-old guy, and my wife Carrie, who is 33, and I got married last week. It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, but my sister June, who is 25, managed to turn it into a nightmare. June was supposed to give a toast at our reception, and I had one simple request: no drinking before the speech. I know my sister and her tendency to go overboard, so I wanted to keep things in check. When it was time for her to give her toast, she was clearly drunk. She was slurring her words and stumbling as she walked up to the mic. I immediately got up to stop her, but Carrie gently put her hand on my arm and asked me to let June speak. Carrie has always been a peacemaker, so I reluctantly sat down, but I was fuming inside. I had a feeling this wouldn't end well. June started her speech with some awkward, disjointed stories about my past relationships, including one ex who she apparently adored. She went on about how she loved that ex and how the whole family had hoped I'd call her and fix things before it was too late. The room fell completely silent. I was mortified, and I could see Carrie's face starting to fall. Then, June shifted gears and began talking about Carrie. She made an offhand remark about how thin Carrie was when we first met, and that she had put on weight since then. Carrie has struggled with an eating disorder, and hearing that at our wedding was like a punch to the gut. June even made a joke that maybe if Carrie went back to puking up every meal, she could get back to her old size. My wife sat there, stone-faced, trying not to let June's words get to her. No one laughed. It was the most awkward, painful silence I've ever experienced. My dad looked like he was about to intervene, but my mom held him back, whispering not to make a scene. Finally, my best man, who had clearly had enough, walked over to June, made a lighthearted joke, and picked her up, carrying her out like it was all part of a comedy skit. It was his way of diffusing the situation without causing an even bigger spectacle, but the damage was already done. When the wedding was over, Carrie was devastated. She kept a brave face during the reception, but she cried in the car on the way to our hotel. I was beyond angry at June and decided I wasn't going to let her behavior slide. The next day, we posted a video of the entire reception in our family group chat, including June's drunken speech. I wanted my family to see exactly what happened. June was horrified, and honestly, so was everyone else. People who hadn't attended the wedding watched the video and it spread beyond our family group. June's friends, co-workers, and even her boss saw it. She's been ostracized at work, and her boss called her in for a meeting to discuss what happened. Now, June is furious with me, saying I should have never shared the video and that I've ruined her life. My parents are also mad, saying I went too far by making it public and that I should have just confronted her privately. But I don't feel bad for her at all. I've always heard that drunk people speak the truth, and I can't shake the feeling that June's speech was a reflection of what she really thinks. So, am I the asshole for posting the video and effectively kicking my sister out of my wedding? Did June deserve to get called out for her behavior at the wedding? Or should we have swept it under the rug? I honestly don't care if I ever see June again after what she did, and it's causing some problems with my parents, who think I should forgive her. What would you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Help me out here. Update: my sister's public meltdown after being kicked out of my wedding. Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my last post. I got a lot of mixed responses, and some of you suggested reaching out to June to try and mend things. I took some time to think about it, but ultimately I decided that she needed to face the consequences of her actions. For the past few weeks, June has been stewing in the aftermath of her disastrous wedding toast. Her reputation at work has taken a major hit, her friends have distanced themselves, and she's been noticeably absent from all family gatherings. I figured she'd learn from this and maybe even reach out with an apology, but that's not what happened. A few nights ago, June hit a new low. I guess she'd been drinking alone because late at night our family group chat lit up with notifications. June, still wearing her old bridesmaid dress, sat in front of her phone and recorded a 20-minute rant about my farce of a wedding. I can't even make this up. She looked disheveled, her makeup smeared, and her hair was messy like she had just rolled out of bed. She started by saying how the wedding was a joke and how Carrie was a terrible match for me. She ranted about how much she doesn't like Carrie, rattling off a laundry list of bizarre, petty complaints. She hates Carrie's laugh because it's too loud. She thinks Carrie dresses like a grandma, and she can't stand how Carrie always orders the same salad whenever we go out. it was just an endless stream of mean-spirited and completely inconsequential things that no sane person would even think to criticize. But then she got personal again, saying that Carrie was trying too hard to fit in with the family and how she's fake for pretending to like our parents when she's only ever polite because, according to June, she wants to look better than everyone else. The worst part was when June started crying, full-on sobbing, about how the backlash from her wedding speech had made her feel. She said she's been humiliated, isolated, and completely misunderstood. She blamed everyone but herself, saying she was just trying to keep it real and that no one could handle her honesty. She whined about how people are always pretending to like each other, and she's the only one brave enough to speak the truth, even if it hurts. It was a truly unhinged display. After posting the video in the group chat, June must have passed out because it stayed up long enough for a couple of our cousins to see it. These cousins just happen to be people June has hurt in the past with her snide, backhanded comments. One about her weight and another about her failed engagement. They wasted no time sharing the video with a wider circle of friends and family. Before long, June's latest rant was spreading like wildfire. Once again, she became the subject of whispered conversations and disapproving texts. Only this time it wasn't just about her drunken toast, it was about how she doubled down on her awful behavior. People were horrified that she would wear her bridesmaid dress and call the wedding a farce, and even more stunned at the way she continued to bash Carrie over such petty nonsense. The shame she'd already been feeling from her wedding speech only grew worse. More colleagues found out, including some who hadn't even known about the first video. June's reputation, already hanging by a thread, was now completely in tatters. I haven't spoken to her directly since the wedding, but from what I hear through family, she's been even more of a mess, lashing out at anyone who tries to talk sense into her. My parents are begging me to take the videos down and to ask our cousins to stop sharing them, but honestly, I don't think it's my responsibility anymore. June created this mess, and she's the one who keeps making it worse. She's done nothing but attack my wife and try to undermine our happiness, so I don't see why I should be the one to clean up after her. If she truly feels miserable, maybe it's because she's finally being forced to confront the impact of her actions. As much as I want to fix things with my sister, I can't keep enabling her behavior. So, am I the asshole for continuing to let her wallow in the misery of her own making, or should I step in and try to put a stop to this once and for all? So, I didn't expect to be back with another update so soon, but here we are. Apparently, June somehow stumbled across my Reddit posts. And in true June fashion, she decided the best course of action was to respond to every single point I made in the most vindictive and absurd way possible. She must have been drinking again, because her comments were so unhinged that even I was stunned reading them. June started by attacking me directly, saying, "Wow, you're really gonna air our family business to a bunch of strangers? Classy, bro." She called my wedding the most boring event of the year, and said that the only reason anyone attended was for the free booze. According to her, my wedding was an overhyped Pinterest fantasy that was more about Carrie's Instagram likes than love. Then she zeroed in on Carrie. She reiterated that she never liked her, and dropped another laundry list of petty grievances, adding that Carrie smells like vanilla candles and desperation, and that she finds it disgusting how Carrie always tries to act like Miss Perfect in front of the family. June also claimed that Carrie once stole her lipstick shade because she's so insecure she can't even pick out her own makeup. She ended that part with, "Newsflash, Carrie, you're basic." As if that wasn't enough, June went on a tangent about our cousins who were the ones that had shared her bridesmaid dress video. She called them backstabbers and accused them of spreading the video only because they're jealous of anyone who gets attention. She brought up old, unrelated grievances like how one cousin couldn't even keep her fiancé interested and how the other still hasn't lost the baby weight from 3 years ago. She then doubled down saying, "Funny how they're so quick to judge when they've got their own messes they can't clean up." She even took a shot at her coworkers, calling them two-faced losers who only pretend to care about her because they want to feel superior to someone. She specifically called out a woman she works with, accusing her of being the office gossip who lives for everyone else's misery because her own life is so sad. June seemed particularly furious at her boss, claiming that he only pulled her in for a meeting because he's got nothing better to do, and that he's just mad because no one laughed at his speech at the last office party. She added, "Maybe he should worry about his own drinking problem before coming at me." She went back to the incident at my wedding and somehow tried to justify her actions. She said that if people can't handle the truth, that's on them. And she's done pretending to be nice for a bunch of fragile egos. She claimed that the only reason no one laughed during her speech was that everyone was too uptight, and said she's the only one who had the guts to say what everyone was thinking. She also managed to throw in some bizarre claims, like how our entire family is a toxic cesspool of fake smiles, and accused our parents of playing favorites and always putting me on a pedestal. According to June, the whole family needs a wake-up call because everyone's so caught up in appearances that they can't even recognize real when it's right in front of them. After her comments went live, it didn't take long for the family chat to blow up. A few relatives reached out to me directly, shocked and horrified by her responses. Some who were initially sympathetic toward June have now completely lost patience with her. Our cousins, the ones she targeted in her rant, are furious and are considering blocking her entirely. One of them told me they never realized how deep June's bitterness ran and that her words were a final straw for them. June's latest outburst has only made things worse for her at work too. The cousin who works in the same industry as June heard through the grapevine that June's boss saw her comments, including the part where she bashed him and her co-workers. Word is there might be consequences coming her way, which doesn't surprise me in the least. I wish I could say this is the end of the saga, but at this point, who knows what June is going to do next? She seems determined to burn every bridge she's ever had, and I've run out of ways to make her see reason. For now, all I can do is sit back and watch the fallout of June's self-destructive behavior. Am I the asshole for letting June's actions speak for themselves, or should I step in and try to stop her from completely unraveling? I really hoped that June's meltdown would be the last of it. That maybe, just maybe, she'd realize how far she'd fallen and start to make amends. But, like everything with June lately, it only got worse. Last week she was arrested for drunk driving. She was pulled over at 2 in the morning, swerving all over the road with an open bottle of vodka in the passenger seat. The cops said she was belligerent, screaming at them that they had no right to stop her and that she knew people who would make their lives hell. When June called from the station, she was hysterical. I didn't pick up, but I heard from my parents that she called everyone she could think of to bail her out. No one answered. Not me, not our cousins, not even my parents, who've always bent over backward for her. They were done, and I can't blame them. June had burned every bridge, and now, in her time of need, she was truly alone. When she went before the judge, she was still visibly drunk from the night before, unsteady on her feet and slurring her words. She started out by trying to play the victim, saying that everyone was out to get her, and that she was being unfairly targeted. When the judge pointed out her blood alcohol level and the danger she posed to herself and others, June snapped. She launched into a tirade, calling the judge a washed-up has-been who only cared about his stupid little power trip. She went on about how her life was none of his business, and how everyone was just jealous of her because she doesn't play by the rules. The judge had had enough. He ordered an inpatient hold for her alcoholism, stating that she was a danger to herself and others. June lost it right there in the courtroom, screaming that she was fine and didn't need any help. She cursed at the officers as they dragged her away, begging for someone, anyone, to set her free. It was a horrifying, pitiful sight, and no one who cared about her was there to witness it. I only found out the details later from a court reporter who knows our family. June was taken straight to a rehab facility, kicking, screaming, and fighting the whole way. The first few days I heard she went through brutal withdrawals, shaking, sweating, vomiting, and worse. She scratched her arms raw, clawing at herself until they bled, like she was trying to escape her own skin, but eventually she started to sober up. The person who emerged was someone I hadn't seen in a long time, calmer, quieter, but still unmistakably June. I finally bit the bullet and went to see her. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I walked into that sterile visiting room and saw her, I almost didn't recognize my own sister. Her arms were bandaged, her hair was pulled back messily, and she looked thinner than ever. But her eyes, those were the biggest shock. They were clearer than I'd seen them in years, not clouded by alcohol or anger. I thought maybe this was it. Maybe hitting rock bottom had finally broken through. She told me that part of her treatment was making amends to the people she'd hurt. But instead of apologizing, she just looked at me with a cold, sober gaze and said, "I'm supposed to say sorry to you, to Carrie, to everyone I've hurt, but I'm not going to. What I said to you, about Carrie, our family, my boss, my co-workers, it was all the truth. I don't have anything to apologize for." She didn't raise her voice or cry, she just said it flatly like she was stating a simple fact. I sat there slack-jawed. I had come hoping for some glimmer of the old June, the sister I grew up with, who was funny and fierce but still kind underneath it all. I thought that if they could just get her sober, she'd go back to being herself. But the more she talked, the more I realized that this was who she was now. Maybe who she'd always been. June was never held accountable for anything growing up. She was coddled by our parents, always the golden child who could do no wrong. Rules and consequences never applied to her, and now it was too late to change. Despite everything, she still had a job to go back to, protected by laws against firing employees for mental health issues. But June, stubborn as always, quit. She refused to go back, saying she wouldn't work for, idiots who think they can control me. She's alienated every friend she had, ostracized herself from the family, and turned away from anyone who might still care about her. I'm at my wit's end. I've watched my sister destroy every good thing in her life, and now, even sober, she's just rolling around in the mess she's made, proud of it. I thought that at rock bottom, she'd find a way to climb back up, but she's just digging deeper, and there's nothing I can do to stop her. So now what? Am I just supposed to stand back and watch her self-destruct? Watch her roll around in the shit she stirred up until there's nothing left of the person I once knew? I don't know what to do anymore. I've lost my sister, not to alcohol, but to herself. Final update, June's disappearance and a heartbreaking discovery. It's been 10 months since my last update. After June was released from rehab, she vanished. She left everything behind, her apartment, her phone, even her car. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. My parents were frantic, calling every friend she'd ever had, reaching out to shelters, posting on social media, hoping for any sign of her. But June didn't want to be found, and in the end, I think we all accepted that when she was ready to reappear, she would. A few weeks after she disappeared, I took it upon myself to clean out her apartment. Walking into that place was like stepping into the mind of someone completely lost. There were piles of unopened mail, dirty dishes left to mold, and clothes strewn everywhere. It was clear that June had been unraveling long before the wedding, before the DUI, before any of us had realized how far she'd fallen. But the most chilling discovery was the sheer number of empty pill bottles. Some of the bottles had names that weren't hers, prescriptions she had no business having. Benzos, painkillers, antidepressants, all mixed and matched, with no regard for the deadly combinations. It was a pharmacy of self-destruction, and it was no wonder her behavior had spiraled so far out of control. Alcohol was just one piece of the puzzle. Her drug abuse had likely twisted her mind in ways none of us could have imagined. We put all her things in storage, not knowing if she'd ever come back for them, but holding on to them just in case. For months there was no word. We resigned ourselves to the idea that wherever June was, she'd come back when she was ready, if she ever was. But then, last week, we got a call that none of us were prepared for. A hospital 2 states away reached out, asking if we were related to June. Apparently, they were part of a larger network of hospitals, and they had me as her emergency contact from when she'd had a small procedure years ago. They told us that she had been admitted briefly, and then she left without notice, abandoning a newborn baby, a tiny little girl, born very small and struggling with the obvious signs of fetal alcohol syndrome. They said she hadn't been there long and that she left without a trace, leaving the baby behind with no plans, no explanation, nothing. Carrie and I drove through the night, hearts pounding, both terrified and resolute. When we arrived, the nurses were kind but somber, explaining the baby's condition. She was so tiny, hooked up to machines, fighting to breathe, her little body already suffering the consequences of June's reckless choices. Carrie didn't hesitate. She gowned up, and they carefully laid the baby on her chest. I watched as Carrie's eyes welled with tears, and the baby settled against her, so fragile but already so strong. In that moment, I knew what was coming. Carrie looked at me, and without a word, I understood. We were taking this baby home. June's child was going to be ours now, and we were going to give her everything June couldn't. I'm angry, devastated, and confused. I don't know where June is, what she's running from, or if she's even safe. I'm haunted by the image of her out there, alone, still struggling with her demons. But now, as I watch Carrie cradle this tiny, beautiful girl, my anger softens. I have to believe that June, in her own broken way, knew she couldn't take care of her baby and made the only choice she could. Maybe she thought leaving her was the best thing she could do. But here's the thing. I don't want June to come back. I don't want her to show up one day expecting forgiveness or a second chance. Not after everything she's done, not after the choices she's made. I don't know if I'll ever forgive her for abandoning her baby like that, but I also don't want her to have any power over this little girl's life. We've started the legal process to adopt June's daughter. It's going to be a long road, but Carrie and I are committed to giving this baby the love, stability, and safety she deserves. She's innocent in all of this. A beautiful little soul born into chaos, but she's ours now, and we're going to protect her with everything we have. June, wherever you are, I hope you're safe. I hope you found some semblance of peace, but I also hope you never come back. Because now it's not just about protecting ourselves from your destructive path, it's about protecting this little girl, your daughter, from ever feeling the pain you've caused. We'll love her fiercely, and we'll never let her forget that she is wanted, that she is enough, and that she is loved, no matter where she came from. We're not just mopping up the mess you've made, June. We're building something beautiful from the ashes of your mistakes. And for the first time in a long time, I feel a strange sense of hope. I hope you're okay, but I also hope you stay far, far away.
Thanks so much for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on our daily stories. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Am I the Asshole? So what do you think about this situation? Drop a comment below. Do you think they were in the right or wrong? Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.